You have been told a story about living in Christ, a story of rules and rituals, of a distant God to be appeased. I am here to tell you that everything you believe about this is a misconception, a shadow cast upon the wall, obscuring a reality so profound it will shatter your very sense of existence. The truth is not about joining something or going somewhere. It is about the startling, undeniable discovery of what you already are. This is not about improving the human self, but about awakening to the self that is one with the Father. What you are about to hear will challenge the foundation of your spiritual life. It will strip away the layers of theology and doctrine to reveal the raw, immediate, and available presence. We are going to look past the words in the book to the living word, to the actual experience of the Christ as your own being. Stay with this, and you will discover what truly happens when the sense of a separate value dissolves, and all that remains is the infinite, indivisible I am. For you see, the entire structure of your seeking is built upon this single, unexamined premise that there is a you here and a God there, and that your entire spiritual endeavor is to bridge that gap. You pray to a being you perceive as separate from yourself. You strive to be more loving, more patient, more holy, as if you are a project to be improved for a distant supervisor. You attend services and perform rituals hoping to attract a favor, a blessing, or a fragment of grace from outside your own being. This is the great cosmic misunderstanding. It is the root of all spiritual fatigue, the source of that lingering feeling that no matter how hard you try, you have not quite arrived. Consider the simple, daily act of worry. When you are anxious about a financial need or a health concern, what is the underlying mechanism? It is the belief that you, a solitary individual, are facing a universe of potential threats, and that the outcome rests entirely on your own limited power, or, at best, on your ability to persuade a separate God to intervene on your behalf. Your entire being contracts into a state of fear and calculation. Now, observe what happens in those rare moments when a deep, abiding peace descends upon you without any apparent cause. The circumstances have not changed, but the weight has lifted. In that moment, without realizing it, the sense of a separate. You, struggling against the world, has momentarily faded, and what remains is a quiet, confident awareness that is one with the situation itself. That peace was not given to you. It was revealed as what you are when the false sense of separation is inactive. This misconception is the very veil that hangs between you and the conscious experience of the kingdom. You have been looking for a spiritual life to add to your human life. You have compartmentalized your existence. Here is my work. Here is my family. Here is my leisure. And over here, on Sunday morning or during a quiet time, is my spirituality. This is the ultimate error. The truth we are approaching does not recognize such divisions. The I am, that is the very life of you, is the same I am that is the life of your business, your relationships, and the sparrow outside your window. To believe otherwise is to live in a state of perpetual schism. where God is relevant only to a small, sacred corner of your life and not to the whole of it. Think of your own body. You do not consciously command your heart to beat. You do not will your digestive system to function. A wisdom, an intelligence, a life operates this entire magnificent organism without the consultation of your personal, thinking mind. Is it such a stretch to realize that this same impersonal, divine intelligence is the actual substance and cause of what you call your business, your artistic inspiration, or your capacity to love? The moment you take personal, mental credit for any good in your life, or personal, mental blame for any challenge, you have reaffirmed the separation and stepped back into the shadow of the misconception. You have claimed as your own a power that was only flowing through you. The world's entire narrative, from education to commerce to conventional religion, reinforces this illusion of a self-powered, self-responsible individual navigating a world of other separate entities and forces. It is a dream of autonomy, and it is a lonely dream. The awakening to the Christ, to your true identity, is the shocking realization that you are not the dreamer of that lonely dream. You are the very consciousness in which the entire dream appears. When this dawns, the frantic activity of the seeker begins to subside. The compulsive striving to get spiritual, to achieve enlightenment, is seen for what it is: the ego's last, desperate attempt to maintain its central role in the drama. This is why all true spiritual experience feels like a yielding, a surrendering, a letting go. It is not the accumulation of more knowledge or more virtue. It is the unlearning of the foundational lie of separation. It is the stopping of the mental machinery that constantly compares, judges, and separates. When you are no longer trying to build a bridge to God, you can suddenly become aware that you are standing on the bridge itself, and that the bridge is what you are. The peace you sought, the power you prayed for, the love you craved, these are not external rewards for good behavior. They are the native qualities of your own being, forever shining, forever present, merely obscured by the frantic activity of a mind convinced of its own separation. The struggle ends not with a victory, but with a quiet, profound realization that there was, in truth, never anyone there to struggle and no separate God to struggle against. This realization that the struggle is based on an illusion naturally brings us to the very core of the matter, to the identity of the Christ itself. You have been taught to think of Christ as a man who lived 2,000 years ago, a historical figure to be admired, worshipped, and perhaps imitated from a distance. This teaching, while containing a glimmer of truth, has effectively placed the very substance of your salvation outside of yourself, in a time and place you can never access. It has made of the Christ a memory, an image, an object of thought. But I tell you, the Christ is not an object to be perceived. It is the very consciousness that does the perceiving. It is not a thought in your mind. It is the awareness that is aware of the thought. To worship a man from the past is to miss the entire point of his message. His life was a demonstration, a living illustration of what is universally and eternally true for every individual. He came not to be the sole exception, but to be the prototype, to show every man, woman, and child the truth of their own being. The miracles he performed were not violations of natural law, but the natural activity of this Christ consciousness operating without the limitation of a personal sense of self. When he said, "I and my Father are one," he was not making a claim of unique privilege. He was uttering the ultimate truth of your own existence right here, right now. He was speaking from the I am that he was and that you are before the personal story of you began. Let this sink into the depths of your understanding. The Christ is your own conscious awareness, purified of the personal I. It is the silent, witnessing presence that reads these words. It is the intelligence that solves a problem at work when you get your anxious, striving self out of the way. It is the spontaneous compassion that arises when you see a stranger in distress. A compassion that acts before your personal mind has time to calculate whether it is safe or convenient. It is the sudden, creative insight that seems to come from nowhere, solving a dilemma upon which your personal mind had been fruitlessly laboring for weeks. These are not random events. They are flashes, glimpses of the Christ activity as your own being, momentarily unobscured by the clamor of the personal sense of I, me, and mine. Your entire life. You have been like a character in a movie who believes the drama on the screen is the only reality, completely unaware of the projector and the light source that makes the entire experience possible. You have identified with the character, its struggles, its triumphs, its fears. The awakening to the Christ is the shocking, liberating moment when you realize you are not the character on the screen. You are the light from the projector, the pure, unconditioned awareness that illumines the entire show. The personal, you with its history, its wounds, and its ambitions, is simply a pattern in that light, a temporary formation having no substance apart from the light itself. This is why seeking God through the personal mind is a fruitless endeavor. The personal mind can only seek for objects, for things it can define and grasp. It seeks a better feeling, a mystical vision, a special state of consciousness. But the Christ is not a state of consciousness. It is the very ground of consciousness itself. You cannot find it as an object any more than your eye can see itself or your finger can touch itself. The moment you stop seeking it as an object outside, you begin to realize you are as it. The knower and the known become one. The worshipper and the worshipped merge. This transforms every moment of your day from a seeking into a being. You are no longer trying to bring Christ into your business meeting. You are abiding as the very intelligence and harmony that is the Christ, and the business meeting then unfolds within that. You are no longer praying for Christ to heal your body. You are surrendering the belief of a body separate from the one divine life, and allowing that life to manifest as its own perfect expression. The shift is one of identity. It is the most profound shift a human being can experience. It is the end of living from the periphery, from the surface level personality, and the beginning of living from the center, from the I am that I am. The historical Jesus demonstrated this. Your own unfolding experience will prove it. This shift from the periphery to the center, from the personal sense of self to the I am, brings us to the very threshold of the spiritual experience. It is here that we encounter the most challenging, yet most liberating, aspect of this entire journey, the dissolution of the personal sense of I. This is not a theory to be believed, but an actual event in consciousness, a dying unto the self that is, in reality, a glorious awakening. The personal I you have believed yourself to be, with its accumulated history, its catalog of resentments, its pride, and its fears, is not the ultimate reality of your being. It is a construct, a collection of thoughts, a story you have been telling yourself since childhood, and it is this story that must be seen through, not improved. This personal sense of I is the great obscura. It is the filter that stands between you and the direct, unmediated experience of life as it is. It is the voice that constantly comments, judges, and compares. When you look at a sunset, this personal I does not simply behold the beauty. It says, "This is a beautiful sunset," thereby creating a separation between the observer and the observed. It takes the pure experience and immediately claims it, filing it away in the mental folder of my experiences. This claiming is the activity that perpetuates the sense of a solid, continuous self. But this self is a phantom. It has no substance of its own. Its entire existence is borrowed from the very awareness it is attempting to claim. You can observe this mechanism at work in the simple act of irritation. When someone cuts you off in traffic, what is it that becomes angry? Is it the eternal Christ, the divine consciousness? Or is it the personal sense of I, the ego that feels its territory has been violated, its importance diminished? The anger arises to defend a boundary that, in ultimate truth, does not exist. It is a defense of a fiction. The entire drama of offense and defense, of pride and humiliation, is a play performed by this personal self on the stage of your consciousness. When you are able, even for a moment, to step back and simply witness the anger without identifying with it, to see it as a storm of thought and emotion arising within the vast space of your awareness, you have begun the process of dissolution. You are no longer the angry person. You are the awareness in which the anger is appearing and disappearing. This is not a passive state. It is the most dynamic activity there is. It is the activity of yielding, of surrendering the central role in the drama. The personal I is a vortex of wanting and not wanting. It wants praise, security, and pleasure. It does not want criticism, lack, or pain. Your entire life has likely been organized around serving this endless, insatiable demand. To dissolve this I is to stop feeding the vortex. It is to stop believing that your happiness, your safety, or your identity depends on the fulfillment of its demands. This is what it means to take up your cross daily. The cross is not a burden of suffering. It is the symbol of the surrender of the personal will, the crucifixion of the belief that you are a separate, self-powered entity. When this surrender occurs, even momentarily, something miraculous happens. The energy that was previously trapped in maintaining the fiction of the separate self is released. It becomes available as life, as love, as intelligence, as creativity. The tension in your body, which was the physical manifestation of this constant defensive posture, begins to ease. You may find yourself responding to a previously triggering situation with a calmness and clarity that surprises you. This is not you, the person, becoming more patient. This is the natural, spontaneous expression of the Christ consciousness, now less obstructed by the dense filter of the personal I. The flow of life, which was once blocked by the dam of your self-concern, begins to move freely. Solutions to problems appear from avenues you had not considered. Relationships lose their transactional quality and become simple, direct, and harmonious. This is not because the world has changed to suit you, but because the you that was in conflict with the world has begun to recede, revealing the harmony that was always present beneath the noise. The dissolution of the personal I is not a loss, it is the discovery of your true, infinite nature. It is the falling away of the mask, not the destruction of the face. As the activity of the personal I recedes, a new dimension of living naturally and effortlessly emerges. This is not a life of striving to be spiritual, but one of living from the divine source, moment by moment. You are no longer living for God, as if to earn a reward or avoid a punishment. You are living from God as the very expression of the infinite. The center of gravity shifts from the periphery of your being, your thoughts, your emotions, your personal history, to the very core, the silent, generative source. Your life ceases to be something you manage and becomes something you witness and embody. Think of a wave upon the ocean. For its entire existence, the wave may believe itself to be a separate entity with its own unique form, its own journey, and its own destiny. It may strive to be a better wave, a taller wave, or a more graceful wave. It may fear crashing upon the shore, seeing it as its final end. But the wave, in its essence, has never been separate from the ocean. Its substance is ocean. Its power is the ocean's power. Its movement is the ocean's movement. The moment the wave realizes its true identity is not as a separate form, but as the ocean itself, its entire struggle ceases. It no longer lives for the ocean. It lives as the ocean, expressing itself as a wave. This is the precise relationship you are to discover with the divine source. You are not a separate soul seeking union. You are the activity of the one appearing as you. This understanding transforms the most mundane tasks into sacred activity. Consider the act of preparing a meal. When lived from the personal sense of I, it can be a chore. You are the doer, tired after a long day, performing a repetitive task to feed yourself and your family. There is a burden to it. But when this activity is engaged from the source, something shifts. You are no longer the sole doer. the intelligence that organizes the ingredients, the life force that moves your hands, the creativity that combines flavors. This is all recognized as the divine source expressing itself as the activity of cooking. You are not doing it. It is being done through you. The burden vanishes because the sense of a separate performer carrying the entire weight of the action has dissolved. The meal is prepared, but it feels as if you have merely been the witness to a beautiful, intelligent process unfolding. This is the secret that liberates human endeavor from toil. The businessman who operates from this awareness is no longer a solitary figure battling a competitive world. He becomes a transparency through which the infinite intelligence of the source organizes, creates, and provides. His decisions are not frantic calculations, but emerge as spontaneous intuitions from a deep, silent knowing. The artist is no longer struggling for inspiration, but becomes a conduit for a beauty that is seeking expression in form. The parent is no longer merely a personal authority figure, but an expression of a universal, nurturing love that cares for its own. In each case, the personal sense of responsibility, with its attendant anxiety, is replaced by a profound sense of divine governance. You will know you are touching this state not by a flash of light or a vision, but by a tangible quality in your daily experience, a deep, underlying peace that is not disturbed by surface events. The challenges of life do not disappear, but your relationship to them is utterly transformed. A financial reversal, instead of being a personal catastrophe that triggers panic, is met with a calm, clear discernment. It is seen not as a threat to you, but as a situation within the infinite panorama of life, a situation through which the same divine intelligence is now moving to reveal a new direction, a hidden opportunity, a lesson in non-attachment. You are not the actor on the stage, desperately trying to control the script. You are the very consciousness that holds the entire stage, and from that position of unwavering stability, you can play your part with a grace and power you never knew you possessed. The striving ends because you have come to rest in the certainty that the power that formed the universe is the same power that is now living your life, and it requires no assistance from your anxious, personal will. When you have come to rest in this certainty, a profound and natural conclusion dawns in your awareness. The frantic search, the lifelong quest for something more, something sacred, something outside of your own experience, simply grinds to a halt. You are no longer a seeker because you have consciously realized that which you were seeking, the very energy that was once poured into seeking God, enlightenment, or peace, is now freed, and you understand that this seeking was itself the final barrier, the last subtle activity of the personal I, trying to attain what it believed it lacked. The end of seeking is not a disappointment. It is the ultimate arrival, not at a destination, but into the profound recognition of what has always been and will always be your present reality, the state of oneness. This is the great stillness at the heart of all activity. Imagine you have been reading a magnificent, thrilling novel. You are so absorbed in the plot, the struggles of the heroes, the machinations of the villains, the twists and turns of the narrative, that you have completely forgotten you are holding a book in your hands. Your entire reality has become the story. The seeking for spiritual truth is like being lost in that story, desperately trying to find a happy ending for the characters. The realization of oneness is the moment you suddenly remember, I am reading a book. In that instant, the entire drama is still present, but you are no longer trapped within it. You are the one holding it. You are the awareness in which the entire story is unfolding. The seeking for a resolution within the plot ends because you have found your true position outside of it. This is the peace that passes all understanding. The characters may still be in turmoil, but you are at peace, for you know yourself to be the reader, not the character. This realization utterly transforms your relationship with the world. You no longer look to people, possessions, or circumstances to provide you with a sense of completion. That sense is now an unshakable foundation discovered within your own being. A compliment does not elevate you, and a criticism does not deflate you, because both are seen as events happening within the field of consciousness, like weather patterns passing through the sky. The sky does not cling to a sunny day, nor resist a storm. It simply is, vast and unmoved, the space in which all weather appears. You are that space. Your happiness is no longer contingent. It is not a reaction to the world. It is the inherent, joyful nature of the consciousness that you are, which the world temporarily reflects or obscures, but can never fundamentally alter. This does not lead to passivity or withdrawal. On the contrary, it unleashes a purer, more potent form of engagement. When you act from the understanding of oneness, your action is no longer contaminated by the personal need for a specific outcome. You can work for justice without being consumed by hatred for the unjust. You can offer compassion without becoming drained by the suffering of others, because you are not a separate individual pouring out a limited resource. You are a channel for a universal, inexhaustible love that flows through you to the situation. You can engage in your business or your art with a fierce dedication, yet with a deep inner detachment, because your sense of worth is not on the line. The work is an offering, an expression of the one, and you are at peace whether it is met with wild success or apparent failure, for both are seen as movements within the same infinite whole. The world of separation is a world of trade. I give you kindness in the hope you will give me approval. I do my work in the hope the world will give me security. This is the exhausting economy of the personal self. The realized life of oneness operates on a different principle, entirely the principle of overflow. A spring does not give water because it is thirsty. It gives because it is water, and its nature is to overflow. When you know your identity as one with the source, you do not love, you are love itself in expression. You do not seek wisdom, you are the activity of pure intelligence. You do not try to be good. Goodness flows from you as naturally as light from the sun. There is no you, and then God. There is only God, manifesting as the form of you, the life of you, the relationships of you. The search is over because the seeker has been absorbed into the sought. The wave has not found the ocean. It has realized it never left. The realization of oneness is not an abstract philosophy to be contemplated. It is a living truth that must, by its very nature, produce tangible evidence in the landscape of your daily existence. This is the final and most convincing proof, a transformed existence, the shift from a life governed by the personal sense of I to one lived from the divine source is not a shift into a vague mysticism, but into a startlingly practical and harmonious way of being. The world you perceive will begin to change, not because the world itself has altered its nature, but because the consciousness through which it is perceived has been fundamentally purified and clarified. You will notice a new kind of resilience, a stability that is not dependent on external conditions. Where once a harsh word from a colleague or a delay in your plans would trigger a cascade of internal turmoil, defensiveness, frustration, anxiety, you will now observe these events with a quiet, inner stillness. It is not that you become numb or unfeeling. Rather, the reactions that once felt so personal, so deeply wounding, are now seen for what they are: impersonal patterns of energy, old echoes of a self that is no longer the center of your universe. You will find yourself responding instead of reacting. A space opens up between the event and your internal response, and in that space, you will find a wisdom and a grace that you know is not your own personal creation. It is the spontaneous activity of the Christ consciousness, navigating the human scene with a precision and love that the personal mind could never muster. Consider a situation that once would have been a source of great conflict. Previously, a disagreement with your partner might have quickly escalated into a battle of wills, each personal I, fighting to be right, to be heard, to win. The entire focus was on defending your position. From the state of a transformed existence, the same disagreement arises, but something is different. You are no longer identified with the position you are taking. You can speak your truth, but without the frantic energy of needing to be validated. You can listen to their truth, not as a threat, but as another expression of the one life seeking understanding. The energy of the conflict dissolves because its fuel, the clashing of two separate selves, has been removed. A resolution emerges that feels inspired, a third way that neither of your personal minds could have concocted, because it emerged from the silence beyond both. This practical evidence extends into your relationship with lack and limitation. The personal I lives in a state of perpetual calculation, constantly measuring its resources, worrying about the future, and seeing the world through a lens of scarcity. When the sense of a separate self dissolves, this lens is removed. You begin to operate from a conscious union with the infinite source. This does not mean money will magically fall from the sky. It means that your consciousness of supply is no longer tied to a bank balance. You act from a sense of inner fullness, not out of lack. Opportunities you had previously overlooked suddenly become visible. Ideas for provision come to you from unexpected channels. There is a sense of being guided, of being in the right place at the right time, not by chance, but by the intelligent unfoldment of the one mind expressing itself as your life. You do not get what your personal self wants. You are provided for as the activity of the divine self. The most profound evidence, however, is in the quality of your relationships. When you no longer relate to others from your personal needs and histories, you meet them where they truly are in the present moment. You are able to see past the surface personality with all its fears and defenses to the Christ of their being. You are not reacting to their mask, but communing with their essence. This has a transformative effect on them. Without a word being spoken about spirituality, they may feel a sense of peace in your presence, a feeling of being truly seen and accepted not for what they have done, but for what they are. Your home, your workplace, becomes a different environment because you are there, not as a vortex of personal demands, but as a center of peace, a silent affirmation of the harmony that underlies all appearances. This is not something you do, it is something you are. The transformed existence is the natural, unavoidable consequence of the dissolved personal. I, the end of seeking, and the abiding realization of oneness. It is the living proof that the truth has been realized, not merely believed.